Alright, hey everybody. This is a demo, the last one we're doing this week. It's called Gods of Savvarah, and I don't really know much about it, but I figured I'd check it out. Savvarah. Many sentient creatures contemplate their creation. Who are we? Who brought us into existence? What for? For us, the Savarians, these questions were never of a philosophical nature. We know who created us, we know how, and we know who used to know for what purpose. Clouds have always bypassed Savvarah. They crowded around but never dared cross some kind of invisible barrier. There, amidst evergreen forest, basking in the eternal light of the sun, sat in Kotal, the city hidden from the eyes of a stranger. That city was our prison. It's always better to move on four paws. Savvarah did not mind the crawling, at least he kept his head, which was of use after all. With his heart beating soundly, Savvarah was making his way through the sleeping brothers. Heavy silence, interrupted only by snoring and puffing, strengthened every little rustle. He restrained himself from pushing forward. Freedom was so close. She was so close. Something touched his ankle. Savvarah halted. He almost fell to the ground, but he didn't want to make a noise. That's fine, just one of his brother's tosses and turns. He gathered his strength and continued moving. How many times has he sneaked out of here? And every time he thought over a plan in case he got caught. Finally, fresh air. Savvarah crawled in the dark, still too soon to relax. Who knows what can happen if he gets caught, though he could always talk his way out, referring to one of Master's errands. Nobody dares goes against Loyoka's will, no matter how absurd it may be. Blood rushed to his head, yet it was not fear, excitement. Once again, he wants to prove to himself that he can wander around in Kotal at his own whim. Is there any other Savarian who can do this? The Katak domain was enclosed by a wall of thickets. What useless beauty. Savvarah navigated this motley maze better than Katak servants themselves. He knew every flower here and would notice any change in the order. What they were called, whatever. Oh, these bushes of all shapes and sizes have saved his life more than once. Even now the lizard was watching the estate, sitting in the shade of a spreading tree. A familiar silhouette, gait, and profile. A shiver ran down his back. There's the lizard. It was her, Kihara. Though apparently he arrived too late. Following the other servants, the girl was returning to her modest home. Katara jerked as if she'd seen a ghost. Her face changed abruptly, and she gestured to Savvarah. Go away. Kira, are you coming? Yes, I think I left some tools. I'll catch up with you soon. Savvarah came even closer, and she shushed him. What are you doing here? I told you not to come. Aren't you happy to see me? We've already agreed that this cannot go on. I don't remember agreeing to anything. I just wanted to see you. Oh, please, don't make such a face. It's dangerous. They might see us. Are you afraid they'll be jealous? Of course I am, and you should be too. It's your fault. One look at you, and it's kind of hard to be afraid, you know. I know you can always win me over. But it's serious now, So are my intentions. Look what we've got here. He handed her a stone. It looked quite ordinary. A circle with spikes scratched onto it. The sun. What is it? I once saw the masters give each other, different things. That's what I made for you. Keepsake. She stared at this clumsily drawn sun for some time. This is the only kind of sun that could shine for us. And yet we must stop. Should we get caught? We won't. There's no future for us. Unless our saint masters would decide to arrange a marriage between two loving souls. Let me ask them. Enough. That's a bad joke. Savvarah, you know what? I won't come back tomorrow, but the day after. Stop it. She's almost growling now. Is this very funny? Or do my words mean nothing to you? If you come again, I'll call the others. She disappeared in the thickets. Savvarah was sneaking back, following the same path. He grinned. He'll come back in a couple of days. Her threat didn't sound all that serious. The next night, Savvarah escaped from the hut again. She wasn't there. He waited longer than usual and almost let his guard down. Savvarah couldn't sleep. He fell asleep with bad thoughts. Now it was making sense. Her harsh tone, sudden request to part. She must have found another male among her own people. That would be much easier. Hasva dropped into a vicious, heavy sleep. It was dark and damp. The viscous chill always seemed especially pleasant after the brutal sunlight. Hasva woke up in the dugout that he and his sworn brothers had called home. He woke up by himself, like most of the others. They were trained to get up early. He didn't get up. He buried his face in the wet wall when something poked him in his thigh. He turned around. Above him stood the eldest, Ushad. He was an old lizard of the Yashara tribe. He lived here long before the Hashva was born and was the sworn father and tutor of most of the Nair house servants. "Sleeping well, darling? Should I tuck you in?" Hasva jumped up briskly, hiding his supplies. He could not remember any morning errands. "What's up?" "You dare ask me what's up? You should be out working already. Look at yourself, all brawn and still no brain." "But what are you mumbling about?" "The sun is up, and you must be... The sun is up, and you must be up as well, remember? Do I have to teach you a lesson once more? Or do you want to go straight to the pit?" Hasva was looking down at the floor, listening to Ushad. Ushad grumbled often. It seemed to be a matter of habit, but then Hasva remembered Ushad when he was younger. This red-haired lizard once bit off a piece of the guilty one. He is from the Ara tribe, after all. They're not to be trifled with. Even robust young men like Hasva don't scare them. "What's taking so long? Get out!" To disobey Ushad is to disobey the master, a deadly sin. They came out to the surface. Hasva winced at the bright sunlight. Gan, Quar, and Shashkin were all standing outside. They were lizards from the tribe. "And why are you standing here? Go fetch the palanquin." "And what's with staring at Has? We'll manage without him." "The palanquin at this hour? The master must be going somewhere." "Sorry. Doesn't often happen so early in the morning." "And you will be watching the babies until we get back." "Me? I'm no female." "You'll be wherever I tell you to be." "Why so grumpy? Didn't you enjoy your rest?" "Well then shut up and get to work." Children mean problems. Should one wake the master, everyone will have problems, especially Hasva himself. The children, too, they can easily be tossed into a pit just as well. The garden was bustling with running children. Hasva clapped his hands. "Hasva, what are you doing here? You're too wet behind the ears to ask questions." "We thought that Ushad was coming." "Ushad? What's he supposed to do here?" "He said he would tell us a story." "Ah, yes, a story." Hasva chuckled. Nothing changes here. He even remembered sitting here and listening to Ushad's story, the one he always told the little ones. "I know this story, too." "What's it about?" "Oh, it's essential. It's a story about our people. Everyone must know it." Hasva closed his eyes, thinking where he should begin. Lizards of the Ahara tribe were considered bloodthirsty and narrow-minded, but Ushad was a good storyteller. "Have you seen the sun?" The sun always shone over Savvarah, but there were times when its rays could not reach the earth. The whole land was in the grip of impenetrable blackness. There was nothing, impenetrable darkness. There was nothing but blackness through which the sun rays could not break through. Then the sun sent his son, Akotol here. Oh, they're Christian lizards. Akotol came down to our land and dispersed the darkness. Savvarah has become the only haven of life on earth. Is there still darkness outside Savvarah? No, only fragments of the darkness remained. The clouds that surrounded Savvarah will still strive to absorb the sun. After Akotol and the Loyoka came to this land, his younger brothers, he promised to tell the story of our people. Ouch, why? Don't interrupt the elders. But as the smell of blood attracts a predator, so does the triumph of what's that bend? Flesh? Flesh? The triumphs of flesh. Predators attracted by blood and flesh. No, nothing like that. Shut up. Now I remember. Just as the smell of blood attracts a predator, so the triumph of life attracts death and destruction. My line was better. Hundreds of hordes of heralds of destruction appeared at the borders of our native Savvarah. They were called the Dominion of the Horned Ones. The Dominion strove to invade Savvarah and raze everything here to the ground. They threw stones and fire at the forest when the earth itself rebelled against the Horned Ones at the command of Akotal. But why would the Horned Ones all do this? The same reason why the sun warms, the tree casts a shadow. Such is their essence. And will there be any talk about Savarians at all? Of course. The Akotal created us, the 7 Savarian tribes. We became the army of the sun, fighters that stood up to protect not just Savvarah, but life itself. And which tribe is the strongest? Everyone knows it's but only we can do magic. You're lying. You've never done any magic yet. Every tribe has its own strengths and weaknesses. But it was the tribe that led the Savarians into the battle. We fought the Horned Ones outside Savvarah in the barren wasteland. We saved Savvarah, and only then we returned home. But it wasn't the end of our path. Long story. After Savvarah's rescue, we were awarded to the highest honor to serve the Lokoya and Akatal. Hasva! Hasva nearly jumped to his feet. The old lizard of the Iraq tribes. These fucking words. I was heading towards them. Ushad looks displeased, as if Hasva did something wrong. Off to you, brothers! The Nair house itself, bathing in bright rays, seemed to shine against the background of the clear sky and lush gardens. A huge snow-white building, the Nair estate was a miracle of architecture compared to the miserable dugouts of the Savarians. But such were all the houses of the masters. They were not built by slaves, and of course not by the Loyoka themselves. They were created by magic. Asva and his brothers carried the palanquin to the steps. Looks like another butchery. Oh, this early. The butchery was both for entertainment and for the masters and a punishment for the slaves. It was held at a place called the Arena, but Savarians named it the Pit. The servants were released into the arena. Sometimes they fought with monsters, sometimes other servants. Sometimes if servants did something wrong, the arena becomes a place for elaborate execution. Quiet, he's coming. The snow-white robe of the master was blending with the palace in the background. Isir was one of the elders in the House Nair, although he looked young. The Loyoka were not immortal, but they aged very slowly. Many generations of Savarians can change before their master's curls turn gray. They all lifted the bulky palanquin at the same time at Ushad's command. Together they moved in sync, smoothly and confidently. Ushad trained them for a long time. Their master's comfort is priority. The masters could walk in the air, but for some reason they did not give up such primitive means of movement. Haswa could only guess what these green-skinned creatures were thinking. After the master's estates, the arena could only surprise with its size. Numerous spectators stretched in front of the plain-looking arena. Look at all those numerous spectators. I was kind of afraid this was going to be just a standard visual novel. I mean, it's not bad so far. It's just, like I said, it's standard. One of the standard things is that you draw all the backgrounds, but not very many characters, unless they're speaking. So, I'm actually surprised this has had so much character drawings in it so far. I guess if you're not going to describe what the characters look like in the dialogue, you have to show them. There were Savarians everywhere. The lizards were jailers, warders, cleaners. Hasva and his brothers were standing near Isir. Only the masters were allowed to sit. Now another Loyoka of the Katash house sat next to Isir. Hasva was studying the servants. Mine will be there today. No way, what has she done? She escaped from my domain at night. The eldest said that she was seeing some outsider. Uh-oh. I decided to forgive her, but as a warning, I ordered Crocus to mate with her. And she stabbed him last night. Stabbed? Well, smashed his throat with some stone. And you decided to send her to the arena? Quite noble. I don't like violence. Hashra was stunned. His heart was pounding wildly. Katak did not give a name, but Hashra already understood everything. He was sick of how carelessly the Loyoka talked about mating. And that wasn't the only thing that infuriated Hashva. Akir learned about the night escapes from this servant. Hashva was sure that Crocus regarded the female as a delirious bone thrown by his master. Fights in the arena were different. If a crime was not serious, a lizard fought another lizard. The winner survived, and it depended entirely on the master's will whether the servant returned or stayed in the catacombs of the pit. Fights with monsters were much worse. Only the most lucky survived. Such fights were intended to be exceptionally guilty for those who had been living in the basement of the arena for too long. The execution was something very rare. Hasva has never witnessed it. In such case, a servant was opposed by the magic of a master or Akatul himself. This kind of death was slow and painful. The last fight was announced. Hasva felt his heart stop beating. What he saw seemed to be a dream. A bad dream. She was released into the arena. Kihara. There was no other lizards in the arena. She had no chance of survival. A passage appeared in the wall of the arena. There was a deafening roar which seemed to make the walls tremble. Some master startled, but then laughed. A huge monster entered the arena. Had thick fur, which was simply unthinkable for these places. It looked excessively big, standing near Kiara. Its massive body, powerful limbs, and gigantic muzzle with sharp-toothed jaws. The monster rushed to Kiara. Hashva watched with a shudder as she darted around the arena, barely managing to dodge the rapid leaps of the colossal creature. She won't last long, Hashva knew it. At that moment, it seemed to Hashva that time had slowed down, the sounds had subdued, as if the whole world had become mute. He looked around. The masters were having fun, talking casually, and his brothers, the sworn brothers, looked around with indifferent, dead eyes. Some Savarians looked at the arena with a grin. Hashva was no longer listening to what the Loyoka were saying. Their speech seemed distant, only a jumble of sounds could be heard. When suddenly a Katak's remark leaped out at him. By the way, they found this trinket at her place. What is it? A stone? Might play with them too. Take a closer look. What is that? Some kind of scribble? The sun. What? Well, it looks like that. And the eldest claims he knows who gave her this. Ha! I did not know that lizards could draw. A shiver ran down Hasva's spine. The Loyoka can't read minds, can they? How curious. We should arrange a competition. An artist competition, huh? Hashva's gaze darted across the arena. Will he end up there himself, or will he be executed right in the house? He turned around and locked eyes with Ushad. Who knows what was in the old man's gaze? Sadness, pity, regret? Then it suddenly occurred to Hashva. The old man knows everything. For the masters, they were just rubbish. But it was even worse that the Savarians themselves grew to consider themselves rubbish. Hashva has lost many. His parents, brothers, a sister, friends. And they died in such a way that no one even remembered them now. They'll definitely kill him if he comes back. Definitely. Now he has no choice. He can humbly return home or die with Kiara. It's his fault after all. Hashva exhaled silently and he made up his mind. He moved to the edge of the arena, slowly as not to attract too much attention. The masters didn't even glance at him. The lizards did. He approached the very edge of the parapet. The next moment, Hashva leapt over it. It was impressively high there, but Hashva wasn't afraid to fall. He came from the tribe, they were the strongest and most well-built Savarians. Landed on all fours. The beast was too busy with Kiara to notice Hashva. Hashva rushed toward the beast. When the beast turned around, Hashva was already too close. He jumped right on the beast. The sharp claws got into the beast's muzzle. The monster growled, whipped at its head, trying to kick Hashva off. Hashva nearly fell off. He took one of the beast's eyes off his claw. Hashva needed a weapon. He spotted it looking at the row of fangs. He grasped a fang. Thunderous growl. Got a little too greedy. Well, I guess I didn't save it, so... And there were no quick saves. Alright, well that was kind of interesting. I guess it really is like a game where you can die, so... That's a little different than most visual novels. So anyway, think I'm going to cut it short here, and if you want to check out this demo, it does have achievements. I got one of them. But yeah, it actually seems like they put a lot of thought into this game. It's pretty cool. So, for as visual novels go, this seems like one of the better ones, at least one of the more interesting ones. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll be going back to our regular schedule tomorrow with Pentiment and Return to Monkey Island, then Valiant Hearts on Monday. So I hope you have a great weekend, and stay tuned. Bye-bye.